Tonight's show is brought to you by Guru Larry, because if you want to support a guy that talks about hard to get imports from an island nation, make sure it's the one that's not accused of rape.
Ooh.
And
Booms.
yes, it's I promise you that there will be no shortage of jokes about Justin. It takes a Glock to stop this cock, Carmichael. Um, uh, yeah, this is what I'm calling the Channel Awful victory lap, because as everyone knows, Channel Awful has pretty much fallen. I think to never rise again.
Well, the funny thing about that name is that there's a listener named Jeffrey Gray, and I was talking to him about what happened, and he's just like, "How are you and Ben handling it?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm kind of indifferent, but I think Ben's off doing the victory lap, probably like skipping around his house with a broomstick between his leg, just howling
No, he's
and hooting, and
just running around with his hands thrust in the air in celebration. Just I win.
because back in the old days, whenever we would sign off, we would like talk about Channel Awful and be like, how much time do they have left? And they would just like have this horseshoe up their ass and keep going, and it finally took a document to bring them down.
A document full of spurg, mind you. And
So, Ben, before you start anything, so you're saying the pen was mightier than the sword, or some internet meme variation thereof, Neil?
Something like that.
And I got to preface this with this document. There is very little new in this document. 80% of this document has been known. A. Salieri broke the upside down cross story when it happened, and pretty much everyone disavowed that story. And this document pretty much says, no, this really happened. So I'm pretty sure Ace also was doing a victory lap of his own.
Yeah, probably
Like
doing
I
the thing
said-
with the broomstick.
Like I told Ben, I knew about Justin Carmichael being a fucking rapist. Well, not a rapist. I knew that he was a pedophile a long time ago. Just before he died, there was a leak on 4chan where they pointed out that he was, grooming somebody on his fucking forum.
You talking about Kitty?
I don't know who they kept it under wraps who it was, but they're talking about that. And then after he died, all fucking talk about it just went away.
Yes, the Messiah effect.
Yeah. So when we were doing that commentary for the fucking Channel Awful movies, and I was going hard on Justin Carmichael, I thought you guys were in the know. So that's why I never held back at all. Because you guys usually know everything about these guys.
Not that much, honestly. I mean, it's, again, I don't deep dive, and I'm not even a 4chaner, honestly.
Thing is, I don't know what I'm gonna do with that last commentary, because it's like it should come out, but I'm like, ugh, I don't know, because I've been holding on to it just because it's an editing nightmare. I have to make sure it actually syncs with the movie, and I keep putting it off, and now this happened.
Well, I think one thing, and you guys can probably, we should just give a brief description of, what Channel Awesome / Awful was before we, start digging into this carcass.
Yes, and I have the document open up. I'm not going to read every grievance because that's going to take too fucking long, and we ain't got time for that shit. And not to mention some of these complaints are like spurgy as hell. But when we get to that part, I will summarize what the complaints are, and then we'll tear them apart. Because as a dear opponent of Dick Masterson once said, you can make no matter how flat you make it, a pancake still has two sides.
Mm.
Until he deletes the episode, so no one can find out he was trolled. So, Channel Awful / Channel Awesome is basically the next incarnation of what was formerly known as That Guy with the Glasses, which was Doug Walker's vehicle of doing internet videos, parody reviews, etc., under an umbrella with other contributors / producers joining him. All of their videos in the similar vein of his style, which is, some would say, an evolution of the James Rolfe style.
The
Some would
angry
say.
style.
Some would say. I mean, you know, your mileage may vary. Um, the site itself and its fandom was always, especially the diehard fandom, was always somewhat toxic to criticism. And most of the contributors, especially after year 4, year 5, started labeling anything that was even constructive criticism as, quote, trolling, and ignored it. Anil, you have any comments on just this brief, very brief overview of what this is?
Not yet. I'm gonna dig into some of the later stuff.
All right. JT, anything I said that offends you factually?
Oddly enough, no. I mean, I just kind of want to state my case for where, how, like, my view on this. Now, back when YouTube was still a thing before it became like this evil empire, I watched a lot of these video reviewers on YouTube. I enjoyed watching Doug. I enjoyed his angry reviewer shtick. Other guys, not so much. Like Joe, I mean, yeah, video game fans have every right to be angry. How he hasn't dropped dead from a coronary yet, I'll never know.
I still can't believe he's the most successful of all of them.
Finger quotes successful, but I mean, there's
he's got triple the subscribers that Doug has.
Yeah.
I mean, finger quotes. I mean, I think Joe Vargas is a piece of shit, but even I will admit he has a very huge following on YouTube, and he does make decent money doing this.
Well,
Actually,
yeah.
I think I do have something to say, but I'll let JT finish. I'm gonna let you finish. Okay,
thank you. I'm gonna let you. Thank you, Kanye. So I mean, there's a lot of guys. The only guys that I really paid attention to in the long run, for as much as I disliked what I knew about him, from you guys and other sources. I did watch Lewis's videos a lot, and Bennett the Sage, like his anime reviews. He's the only one I really follow still on YouTube from any of this. So and I know a lot of times I play devil's advocate because, so as not to let the negativity ruin ourselves. I'm not doing that so much today. Like, I understand, no one's hands are clean in any of this. It's just, I just want to say, there are some of these guys I liked. There are some that I barely paid attention to, and I'm honestly surprised it lasted this long for them. So
truly the WCW of internet collectives. It just kept going, and nobody really understood why.
Yeah, so that made Flip like Impact Wrestling then?
Oh my God, yeah, it is kind of like Impact Wrestling. But I half expect like someday that we're gonna log into Channel Awesome and like everything's gonna be gone except for like a picture of Stuttering Craig just giving us the double middle finger. Like, I outlasted you.
Well,
my nemesis is gone.
Well, technically, it's channel Larry now.
Yeah, Larry. You could just buy the whole thing. It's probably worth like $0.25. But you remember back when, God, I don't even remember what happened, but we did an episode of the old show where it was like a moment of positivity, and I wanted to talk about like all the good stuff out there on the internet, and I never really considered any of Channel Awesome like particularly good. So, I would comment on like the guys that I like, like the Metal Jesus Rocks and Happy Console Gamer and all those guys, and I threw Drew Wario into the middle of that because I'm like, well, even though he's gone, he had that show that was like all about collecting old Famicom games and finding the ones that are actually playable in English, because I'm like, wow, no one's really doing that, and that's like, and I thought that was so good of him, and like it just feels so salty now in retrospect. It's like, God damn it! It's like the one guy that I thought was like
Pure.
Yeah, pure, turned out to be like the scumbag of the site.
Well, I think that's sort of like a race to the bottom, Neil. It's, I mean, it's, so basically how this came about was, there were exoduses in the past of the site, but there were always a core few people that always stuck around, that never left, and felt like they will never will leave. And all of a
Hello,
sudden,
you.
just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it felt like this document dropped. And what turned out was Mars Girl and Obscurus Lupa were tweeting with each other before this all dropped. Basically, they were coming up with this idea to do this document. And as soon as the document dropped, pretty much everyone left the site. They had a ridiculous number of producers. I think they had like 26, 27 producers on their site, and it dropped down in a week and a half to Guru Larry.
Hmm.
And go ahead.
I love that he's just trolling them.
I love his tweet, winner, winner, chicken dinner.
That's great.
I like the winner of the first annual Channel Awesome Hunger Games.
Yes.
He's been great during this.
He is a magnificent troll. We salute you, sir. So the document in question is the not so awesome document, as it's called on Google Docs. It's been shared across the internet. There is a full document that is an ungodly number of pages. I think it's 70 so pages, and a condensed version, which is like 5 pages of condensing. And I just want to say, when we're talking about this, I'm going to be fair to the parties that need to be fair, need to be even-handed and fair to, even in the face of just the amount of spin going on right here, because I feel like the producers that came across and created this document did their damnedest to spin the narrative one way, and they spent it really hard, even to the point where the stuff that could hurt them they still put in, but they still try to spin it as a way to hurt Channel Awful and the triad conglomerate of Rob, Doug, and Mike Machad. And I feel like pretty much they wrote this document as with one thought process of how can we hurt the triad of Rob, Doug, and Mike Machad. And I think that there's something disingenuous about that. I think the fact that there's definitely something fishy about that. So let's go ahead and get started on this document. I'm going to actually link this document to chat. So again, you guys don't need to follow along. In fact, I encourage you not to. And again, we're going to do broad strokes here. So the first person in this document, and as I believe, after the foreword written by Marskull, the first person and the architect of the document, Obscurus Lupa, basically most of the bitching is of the fact that that they never got paid, and Mike Machad is a con man, and the fact that she was fired because she didn't answer a Skype message for 15 minutes. Those were her biggest complaints. Let's talk about those. So the whole idea of they're getting paid in exposure, and this is the biggest gripe that these people have. But look at the people who are complaining the most about the exposure payment versus cash payment. Obscurus Lupa, Marsgo, Linkara, Jesu Otaku. I mean, Lindsay Ellis. These are people who've been with the site for 8+ years before they quit, and they're complaining, "Oh, we got paid in exposure." And the one thing that they also gleefully reveal is there are no real contracts with Channel Awful. That basically this is like a handshake deal. They're agreeing to have their stuff hosted on the site for exposure, and basically they're griping, "Oh, we aren't getting paid in cash. We're getting paid in exposure. Boo hoo, boo hoo." But it's like, okay, then then exit out of your non-existent contract and go elsewhere. I mean, the Dick Masterson said this best in the latest what's it called? Peasants.
The new and improved Drunken Peasants.
Yes, where he said outright, why do you have to be angry about this? These are people who are bad at contract negotiations. So what?
Well, Lewis's dad is a lawyer, right? He certainly would have looked at it, right?
But again, it's like they agreed to this deal of exposure, gleefully agreed to this deal of exposure for over 5 years without any gripe. And now, because they didn't get a chunk of that money, that beautiful money, they're upset. And let's talk about why they're upset about the money. Because in Channel Awful's early days, when they were on Blip, for the first year and a half that they were on Blip, they were making shit tons of money because of one reason, because of Skittles. Skittles negotiated a ridiculous deal with Blip TV on ad clicks. Basically, they agreed on something that was like almost like 10 times what everywhere else was agreeing on impressions of ads. You know, like if someone sees this ad, Skittles was paying 10 times as much. Skittles lost a shit ton of money because of this contract. But because of that contract, that was the year that Doug broke the 6-figure a year income. That was the year that basically he was able to do everything he wanted to do. You know, revamp his website, get everything going. That's the year everyone else made it huge on Blip because of this ridiculous contract with Skittles. And the problem was they did not realize that when the advertisement contracts came up again, that Skittles would be like, "Are you fucking crazy? We're not going to pay that much per impression again. We almost lost our shirts."
Right, and that's what made Lewis's video where he's complaining about like let the ads play. That's what made that so embarrassing. I'm like, oh my god, dude, are you stupid? I couldn't believe it, and that was like the first, that was the first time that Ben and I had seen like an internet shitstorm happen in real time, and what's happening now is like the second, because Ben and I were kind of talking back and forth before this whole thing with G Wario exploded. We're like, oh my god, are you serious? Justin is the rapist. But yeah, that thing with Lewis was just like that was just like it was the quiet before the storm when that video went live, and I'm like, Ben, you got to look at this. This is horrible.
And let's talk about a video too, because that's another of Obscurus Lupa's complaints in the document. Is she claims that when she was at a Chicago gathering, that pretty much Mike Machad cornered her and said, "Look, you got to stop your mid-roll ads because people are starting to use ad block because of your mid-roll ads. I'm getting complaints from other producers that more people are using mid-roll ads because more people are using ad block because of your mid-roll ads." Now, Allison, Obscurus Lupa, claims that she asked all the other producers, "Hey, did you all complain about my mid-roll ads?" And of course, all of them said, no, what? No. But I have a theory on that, because who around that time was complaining about ad block specifically?
You should add like a little sound effect. What movie was that? What? No.
Yeah. Yes. But again, this is not confirmed. This is based off of the fact that we know the personalities involved and we know what was happening publicly. But I can almost guarantee you that Lewis contacted the higher ups at Channel Awful, complained about the mid-roll ads, saying, "Hey, yeah, her mid-roll ads are causing more people to use ad block, and I'm not getting my half a cent of view anymore." And that in turn caused, basically, and Lewis is the kind of guy that if he complains loud enough, and he does complain loud enough, that eventually, someone's going to be like, "Okay, I'll be the bad guy and I'll deliver Lewis's turd ball message." And I think that's what happened to Mike Machad. I think basically Lewis kept on pressuring, the triad, saying, "Hey, look, we're getting ad block and it's not just happening to me; it's going to happen to you guys too. You better do something about it. And then when Lupa's like, "Hey, who ratted me out about my mid rolls?" Lupa's like, "What, me? No."
What? No.
I mean, no,
If
no
you could rub
contradiction.
a little more murky mark on it, Neil, you almost have it right.
I love that you called him Marky Mark. Because
Yes.
that's who he is.
You gotta sound like you're out of breath when you do a Marky Mark impression.
And like you're totally stunned.
But
I think we found a
again,
transformer.
Yes, that's perfect.
So that's my thoughts. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think that this theory holds any water?
Possibly, but I don't really know. I hate to speculate on what was going on behind the scenes when we don't really have a lot of data. So I don't really know if Lewis had anything to do with that. I would rather make fun of the things that he put out in the open, and we'll get to that. He put some stuff in this document that was like, what? I mean, of all the complaining in that document, his was like the most, I don't know, irrelevant.
Yes. And again, it's like a lot of this is the pot calling the kettle black because Lupa uses 4 to 5 bullet points complaining about Doug's inability to use a Skype recorder or understand technology, and I'm like, you guys barely use better tech setups than he does. It's like none of you guys are Steven Spielberg here. I mean, the legitimate complaint, the one big legitimate complaint on this list with Lupa at least is Pop Quiz Hotshot. This was an Indiegogo campaign that Channel Awful had, basically saying, "Hey, look, we bought a studio space. We're going to create 3 new shows, and one of those new shows is called Pop Quiz Hotshot. It's based off of a single line from Speed, because whatever, where they wanted to do a pop quiz show, bring in fans of the site to compete for the prize of $100.
Golly.
And they raised $90,000 for this show, and they eventually produced 12 episodes. Only after a legal threat from Indiegogo came in, basically saying, "Hey, look, we don't think you actually, did this Indiegogo to do a game show." So apparently, out of what was promised to be 72 episodes, I think they only did 12, and basically they did 12 because their lawyer, they lawyered up, and their lawyer says, "Hey, if you only do 12 episodes, Indiegogo will consider that as an attempt to fulfill your goals." And Pop Quiz Hotshot is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. They use easy buttons from Staples as the buzzers. They get, like I said, the award for winning the show is $100, just a C note. What else? They actually brought in this one fan who cosplayed as and stayed entirely character of Ed from Ed, Ed and Eddie, and I don't know why. And it was, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Brad Jones was only in one episode of it because basically after one episode he decided that was enough, and then Doug became the host of the show. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
I
Go
heard
ahead.
that they had to re-record some stuff with Brad because, or actually, it turned out that Brad's appearance on the show was inconsistent. Like he had shaved his head between shootings or something. This is what I had heard.
Yes,
I
that
believe
is
I heard
true.
it from Iron Liz.
He also is using a shotgun mic as a handheld.
Mm.
It's just really, really bad. Has anyone else seen this abomination, Pop Quiz
I've
Hotshot?
seen very scant appearances of it online.
I think I've seen like some pics on Twitter once, but I was overcome with such an overwhelming sense of meh that so they actually did something.
But the one
And then
thing, go
that's
ahead.
it.
The one thing we have to talk about is where did the $90,000 go?
Into
Red,
their pockets.
no, Red has a theory on that. Red,
What are you talking about?
the $90,000.
I can't remember.
You said it went up Doug's nose.
Probably.
The only other thing I have to really point out in this whole list, this abomination of a list for Mascaris Lupa, is the fact that let's see, where was it again? Where was it? It's
Just one while you look for that, Ben. It's like one thing I wanted to say earlier. I just didn't really have the words. Is the main reason I enjoyed watching their videos for as long as I did is I just like the fun of it. Like the idea of the epic brawl from like their first anniversary and, you know, Doug's style of comedy, if you can call it that. Like I found it entertaining on, you know, a level. I couldn't accurately describe what level that is, but, you know, I was entertained by it. But once all these, like, you know, people started abandoning the ship like it was the Titanic, you know, you start hearing, you know, the he said, she said of everything, you know, the, you know, notes and articles that you guys have shown me over the years. In fact, I remember there was a time a few years ago, you know, before we started Comic Connoisseurs, where, you know, I was on Skype with you and Ben Neal, and I remember Ben's like, no, JT, you need to read this from like this chat, like, I forget, it was like the horse's ass or some horse-themed web board. There was a bunch of like the posts.
The Dead Horse Interchange.
That's
yes.
it. There was a number of times that, because Ben likes the way I do my dramatic readings, that, you know, he had me do something about how Lewis was like losing the shit. And I think it was around the time of the don't use an ad blocker. I was like, look, buddy, I got shit to do in my life, and yeah, maybe it's petty to not want to spend 30 seconds to watch some internet promo, but that's the whole reason why people use PVRs. They can set them to tune out commercials. So, I mean, there was
we knew
fun
that
there
Blip
once.
was going down at the time, so that was all bullshit anyway. But anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, there was fun to be had once if that's all you were there for. And it's just really sad to see, like I said, this thing go down like a flaming wreck. So, you find what you're looking for there, Ben?
Well, the one thing I do have to bring up is, and again, these are parts of stories being told from different people. But with Lupa was partially involved with the whole thing that happened where Spoonie broke down, left the site. What most people don't want to talk about is the fact that Guru Larry revealed this. By the way, Guru Larry revealed around this time, other than Doug, Noah Antweiler, the Spoonie one, was the biggest draw of their site. He was by far the most popular producer on their site, and he brought in the most views.
Well,
So,
who didn't love February?
well, there's a dark side of this, because they also knew that Noah had some issues. They knew he had issues. They didn't know what they were medically, but they knew that they had to handle him with kid gloves. They knew that if they pushed him too hard, he'd break. They knew that if they if they knew that he would not respond well to being treated like everyone else, they had to treat him with kid gloves, and he did, because again, he was the site's biggest draw. Lupa brought in this whole thing about the rape joke, and basically Spoonie did what he did, and basically forced them to the point where they were like, hey, look, you can't act like this if you're part of the company. And Spoonie went, well, I don't want to be a part of the company. And after that point, as Guru Larry reveals, he said basically after that they were looking for any reason to get rid of Lupa because they cost the site big. Um, so the whole 15 minutes not answering a Skype, yeah, that was their chance, and that's exactly what happened. Um, so let's talk about the anniversary videos because I think that's an interesting point because Big Brawl I think is the only one that actually had any sort of emotion to it because it's almost like hey it's almost more of a convention than a get together and make a movie thing. It's everyone's getting together they're to do a convention with each other, sort of get to see each other for the first time IRL. So I think Big Brawl was probably the most happy they were ever.
And I should say the only reason I ever found like Big Brawl was basically my introduction to Doug and everyone. And the whole reason I found that video in the first place is I had just kind of gotten into listening to podcasts. I was listening on a Zune. Don't judge too harshly. And one of the first podcasts that I started following on a regular basis was This Week in Geek with our friend Mike the Birdman Dodd. And I was following him on Twitter, and he had posted, yeah, so I got a cameo in this, that guy with the glasses anniversary video. And, that's what got me in the door like that. And I agree with you, Ben. That's the only one that really just has that sense of goofy fun. I mean, especially when Super Mecha Robo Jesus shows up at the end there. I'm just kind of like, oh, someone's going to burn for that joke. And what was the one immediately following? Was that Kick-Assia?
That was Lacassia, yes.
Yeah.
That one I watched, and that was I watched them all up until the Uncanny Valley. Kick-Assia is the only one that afterwards that I thoroughly enjoyed, finger quotes. Like, it had some stuff that made me laugh. Each of the gags that some of the producers had from their various series was represented there. I enjoyed that sort of thing. But dear God, what followed afterwards, like To Boldly Flee and Suburban Nights, like I appreciate what they were trying to do there, but knowing what we know now about Justin kind of makes me not want to ever watch Labyrinth again, because he played Jareth the Goblin King in that movie, and I was like, man, you did the impossible. You managed to sully the memory of Bowie.
Well, let's move on to the document again.
Well,
We have
let
Mars.
me
Go ahead.
comment
Go ahead.
on those anniversary videos. Just I think that's where Channel Awful kind of went off the rails. Is that just the crossovers in general, because it felt like they were kind of losing they're kind of losing the plot of what they were doing. Because when I watch a review video on YouTube, I want to watch someone talk about the product. If like 8-Bit Guy crosses over with Obsolete Geek, or like Ben Heck, that they're going to talk about something related to geekdom. Whereas, if Mars Girl does a crossover with Lewis, it's like, well, who the hell cares? They're just, it's all about
Play fighting.
them. Yeah, it's all about them play fighting and, just having the same opinions and just, it's pointless. I like people that actually talk about the products and don't become bigger than what their channel was supposed to be about.
And sadly, I think I know reviews have had storylines ever since Mystery K, but I think the whole internet review ongoing storyline. I think the point that first really fruitified is sadly James Rolfe. And James Rolfe, he diversified early, so he gets some forgiveness there because he did Cinemassacre, Monster Madness. He did
Great.
he did other videos. He talks about cinematography. He diversified his portfolio to be more than just AVGN. But
you can tell that he loves movies, and I love those videos.
And like I said, to his credit, he diversified his portfolio early on, so that way people aren't expecting just one thing from him and only want just one thing from him. So again, smart move on the man's part, but he also is a part of where this whole ongoing storyline thing started, where he did the Friday the 13th movie, video game review. No, it wasn't Friday. It was a Nightmare on Elm Street video game review, and that became the storyline, and that's followed and segued into the Power Glove video review for the next week's episode.
Right.
And that was the start of the ongoing storylines in video reviews on YouTube.
Right.
And again, that may be his only sin, but it is a sin.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to the ongoing storylines, the only one that I really felt was appropriate, shall we say, in terms of what they were doing, and it didn't not dilute the brand, but the idea of it didn't become so overbearing. Lewis's storyline, at first I found it intriguing, and being a big comic book fan, kind of apropos that he would do something like that, but eventually became so overwrought and convoluted, and I tried watching Atop the Fourth Wall, the movie. I tried.
Well, we did, so fuck you.
Oh,
well,
God.
Fine, I wasn't strong as you, Ben. Sorry. But
sorry about
again,
that.
Well, I'm not as strong as you. I was weak. But I mean, the one that I did like was Bennett. He has little bits of continuity. He has recurring gags. Something that makes sense for an internet video to have. But it never really got too big for what was going on, aside from his annual crossover videos and the stuff he did in the years leading up to his Violence Jack review. Stuff like that. But I mean, I can't think of anybody else that really had actual ongoing narratives outside of James Rolfe or.
Well, James sort of simmered it down after a while too, because I think James sort of sensed that we were. I mean, after he took a shit on Bugs Bunny, I think he was like, okay, I think I went too far in some places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, were there any other people with narratives in the reviews that you guys followed at all, or you thought were kind of cool?
Nope.
Nope. I mean, we're talking about we're talking about people who are talking about video games, comic books, movies, and stuff, and all of a sudden the fate of the universe is resting in their hands, while in between them telling us about whether or not we should go see Avengers.
Right.
Yeah. It's like they're Doctor Who in this shit. It's like, no, really no. It's but back onto the plot. I mean,
yeah,
let's fuck it. Let's talk about the anniversary movies and the complaints regarding the anniversary movies right here.
Mm-hmm.
There was a document in 4chan circling around years ago from someone who supposedly was a production assistant on Kick-Assia. When this document originally came out, pretty much everyone that was on Channel Awful disavowed this document, saying, no, this is a fake document. This didn't really happen. And then all of a sudden, everything that this document laid out is laid out in the Not So Awesome document.
Right.
About someone stealing a ham sandwich from the guy's fridge.
Blasphemy.
Which was in the 4chan document. Neil knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
All that stuff, the fact that Spoonie and Doug would talk to each other after he ripped Doug's M. Bison cape after they were play fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously?
Yes. All that stuff is and again, it's another case of where it turns out the leaks have been right all along, and I just whenever you see the leaks continually being right, and the official narrative, for years ago, oh, that didn't happen because they're trying to show this sign of unity, until all of a sudden the walls come coming down, and all of a sudden, okay, yeah, that really happened.
Yeah, and a lot of people are going to be like, well, such and so and such from Channel Awesome was there, and they said it didn't happen. Well, they lied, what do you... I'm sorry. It's like the whole thing where with Lewis, and I don't know if this got confirmed, but there's that story of Lewis, where he, what was it? Somebody was saying
Talking
something
about dating
talking
somebody.
about dating someone, and he just kind of showed up and be like, maybe we should not talk about women or something. I don't know. He just butted.
Objectify our coworkers. Hmm?
Hmm? And someone said that didn't happen, and I worked with Lewis on a project, and he
He did that.
did stuff like that. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I can, even if that story's not true, I can give you a story where that happened.
Lewis himself admitted to it
Oh,
on Twitter.
wow.
Somebody linked it to him, and he's like, "That might have happened. I don't know. I've never been to New York before, but." They were talking about New York.
That's right. Where Lindsay says he's nice, really.
Oh, God.
But again, let's kick ass. That's the most lulls we have on that one. But Suburban Nights.
Oh God.
Very very rarely will I defend Channel Awful's the triad, because these are idiots. These are not very nice people. But I will defend them here because pretty much all the producers complained about the arduous shooting schedule, the exhaustion, the etc. that happened in Suburban Nights. But they also backhandedly and offhandedly tell the truth of what happened there. And I think in the interest of being fair to Doug, we have to tell what that truth is. Doug saw that the shoot was going sour on the first day. So on the second day, he brought the group together and he said, "Hey, look, this is getting too complex. It's really cold outside. We're not dressed for the weather. This is getting too hard to handle. How about we downscale this to be a murder mystery shot inside a house?" And guess what? All the producers said, "No, Doug, let's go forward. Let's continue doing this."
Oh Jesus.
This does not absolve management of all the bad things he did in Suburban Nights. It doesn't absolve them of them, smashing Iron Liz's leg. This doesn't absolve them of barely feeding them. But it does blunt the hit somewhat, because they had
Wasn't
an
there a story about Iron Liz getting them all chicken, and everybody's like, "Gross chicken! I don't want it."
Yes. But you get my point that they had an early out. Doug wasn't blind to the fact that the shoot was going sideways, and he tried to give them an easy out, and they said no.
Yeah.
That means they own a part of the badness of that shoot. Not all of it. Again, the triad, they're still culpable. They're still wrong. But the producers don't get a chance to say, no, we want to continue, and then bitch about continuing.
Yeah. Well, I think the best way to put it is that, people are not black and white. There are people have good moments and bad moments, and sometimes people are more bad than good. And I think that's the case with the triad here. But occasionally they're going to do something that's actually thoughtful and nice. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't absolve them of their crimes. That's just the way humanity works. No one's like truly good or bad. I mean, it's kind of like Justin. I mean, Justin, for what he did, he still did weirdly good things. I mean, he helped out a lot of people, and he was, he gave a lot of like good advice to people, in spite of the fact that he was a scumbag. So, sometimes that's why it's so shocking to find out all the details about him. Like, sometimes people do bad things, and strangely they can be the most kind people on earth.
Yeah.
See, one thing I do have to question about the document, and this is really the only big question I have, is if it was so bad working there, why did you stay?
That's a good question, and I agree with you 110%, because even Dick Masterson pointed this out. He's like, because they had no contracts. That's the one thing that the producers continually laugh about. They laughed at the ineptitude of Mike Machado, saying, "There were no contracts. Are you kidding? He's so incompetent. There are no contracts." And he's like, "Well, if there's no legal binding reason for you to stay there, and it was so awful, why did you stay there?" And they go,
Well, yeah, because I mean, I've watched a few of the "I'm no longer with Channel Awesome" videos from a variety of the producers. One that I actually wanted to like full, and I watched the whole way through, was Erod, the Blockbuster Busters video, because by and large, I do like his stuff, and I had been watching him for a couple of years on YouTube before he got picked up with the channel, and to hear him, kind of spell out why he stayed for as long as he did, why he kept taking it day in and day out, being ignored by the higher ups and all that. It's just, okay, I understand why you do that, but it couldn't possibly be the same reason for everyone else. I mean, Obscurus Lupa got out when she did. Lindsay left a while before that. Mars Girl, a lot of them left. But at which point, and another question I have is, at which point do we stop taking them at their word and just have to wonder if this is all just a lot of sour grapes?
I think there's a lot of sour grapes here.
Your internet fame didn't happen to the point you wanted it to happen. You stuck around for as long as you did. I mean, there's was it Matt Burkett, the guy that created Apollo Z Hack? He was on the site for a very short time. He did a couple of videos and then he took off because, one, I'd seen a Facebook post from him. He left because A, his heart wasn't in it anymore, and B, it was like one of the most negative experiences he had ever had with anyone in the internet reviewing community. Because you remember there's stuff like the Agony Booth and
Reviewtopia.
Reviewtopia and all this. Now, all these people that are trying to emulate this, trying to get as much success as that guy with the glasses had, but even before it became Channel Awesome. And just how many of these people, like, how stupid? I don't think any of them are actually stupid, but why would you stay? Like, it's not like this is an abusive relationship. I mean, it was, but it's not like you're like the battered woman or anything. Like,
I think, if I may,
yeah, go right ahead.
I think the exposure that was promised to them was far better than they're letting on.
I mean, yeah, but that's like getting likes on Facebook. I mean,
no, that exposure is more than that. If exposure means more people watch your videos, especially videos with AdSense turned on, that turns into something really quick.
Well, yeah, I guess I should rephrase this. It only goes so far, and it also depends on your output and everything. So again, if it sucks so bad being there, why did you stay? Why did any of them stay? Because, like I said, just reading this document, like, I've read through it at least once, and eventually it's just a lot. It just turns into a ride on the Wambulance.
Exactly.
I can't believe I referenced that movie.
I think part of it is these people don't know how to get their own name out on the internet. They were counting on the triad, Bashad, Rob, and Doug, to basically do their promotion for them. In exchange, they get hosting. They get to be under a big, well-known umbrella, because you got to keep in mind that in that brief period of time, and let's talk about the YouTube component, because early on,
search engine was not very good for a while.
Yes, they had they had Irate Gamer as the top 3 times in a row. I mean, come on, man.
How many times did they have Darkside Phil was the top?
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Thank you for the worthless views. But speaking of which, it's in YouTube's early days. They were what happened was there was a period when they did not care about copyrighted material on their platform. In fact, when a YouTube employee emailed his higher up saying, "Hey, we have whole episodes of Gilligan's Island on our platform. What do we do?" And higher up says, if we don't get a notice, we don't do a thing. What happened was Viacom sued YouTube, and these emails were subpoenaed, and these emails were damning to YouTube. Basically, YouTube was told you had to proactively look for copyrighted material and remove it from this point on. And that's what happened in the early days of YouTube. This is why Doug was deplatformed and had to go to Blip, is because of the Viacom lawsuit. No one wants to talk about this lawsuit because, again, YouTube is a horrible place right now. YouTube is a different beast than it was, and YouTube is Google's monstrosity now. But you have to be fair to what happened. YouTube was told by a judge you had to proactively hunt down copyright material from now on. So when people complain about where's the fair use, that's where it went.
Mm-hmm.
Court order. And again, I just feel like to be fair to YouTube, you have to mention that happened. So let's talk about Mars Girl. Mars Girl is the next complainant here. She complains about payment again with the whole, we get paid an exposure thing. But again, how long was she with the site? 8 years, right? About 8
Something
years.
like that, yeah.
So again, it's like this is more sour grapes than legitimate complaint in my opinion, because Mars Girl is one of those people that went a long way. I mean, she's now a streamer, for crying out loud. I mean, very few of these people are doing exactly what they did when they joined the site. And, go ahead, Red.
You have to do different things to stay relative.
That's true.
You can't keep doing the same thing because people get bored.
Or if you do too long, people expect only that from you.
Pretty much.
Basically, a lot of Mars Girl's complaints are basically about they labeled my videos wrong. The forum was a mess. And stuff about the Screw Attack rivalry. I mean, this is something Neil and I always privately joked about, like how Stuttering Craig and Doug Walker secretly hated each other's guts.
Yeah, which I don't know how true that is, but they rarely. I don't think they've ever done anything co-branded. I think at most they both showed up in videos together, but in separate scenes. Like remember they were both in that Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Oh, God damn it!
I think
with J.L. White. Oh my God, we got J.L. White. I'm like, from where? The Costco?
Ooh.
So the other complaints are to boldly flee. It basically complaints about, like, oh my goodness, how the plotline of To Boldly Flee is about the death of reviewing, and basically how Doug was killing off all reviewers. They felt like, and again, it's like these people were in the movie the whole time, and I feel like these again more sour grapes, Yeah, let's move on to Holly. Holly, I think, is one of the villains of this story. If you had to pick a villain of the story, it's definitely Holly. Holly was their HR person. Why you need HR for a company that has 3 on-the-book employees and pretty much everyone else working for exposure, I don't know. I mean, unless Illinois has some really weird-ass employment laws.
I don't know.
Oh, Neil, that reminds me. I just remembered the thing I wanted to bring up, the last thing about Lupa.
Yeah?
And yeah. So one of Neil's theories about Doug's persona, really old theory, proved right, because apparently Lupa had a wacky voice. And Doug kept on asking Lupa where she got it from, because Doug could not understand someone coming up with something unique. He thinks everyone who does like a weird voice or a wacky voice gets it from somewhere else. And this ties in because Neil lives in the Illinois area.
Yeah.
And there was a running commercial that did a voice very Doug-like, pre-Doug Walker, and
Oh,
hips from Naperville.
hipsters in downtown Naperville. Yeah, it was one of those cut-in commercials that cable companies used to do, where they would just kind of insert local commercials into like a national stream for some reason. So yeah, that commercial, I've never found it online, and I wish it was out there. But yeah, it kind of had a bit of a Dougism to it. But I also kind of accept the internet theory that he's trying to do like a Daffy Duck type character, that he's just trying to be like wacky for wacky's sake, and he just flies off the handle for no apparent reason. Because there's more to his persona than just the wacky voice. He's also like very angry, and he'll like whip out the gun and start shooting it around for some reason. He's like, I don't know. There's a lot to Doug's character, and it's basically all stolen. Which I can't completely riff on, because I borrow things too, but I try to be a little more subtle about it.
Yes. I just thought that was a nice confirmation of the the hipsters from Naperville voice,
Yeah.
because Lupa's story about being constantly questioned about her wacky voice, where did it come from? Back to Holly Brown. Holly's revelations are not groundbreaking. She reveals that basically that the Channel Awful and the Nostalgia Critic character is owned by Doug, Mike Machad, Rob Walker, and another investor, a mystery investor, which later turns out to be Doug's father, who just invested in the company this year.
Great investment.
So, most of let's talk about why I call Holly, the villain of the story. So yeah. She reveals that she worked on To Boldly Flee. That she never says what she's doing working there. Again, it's like to work on it. I mean, I don't know.
Rustling papers.
She complains about the fact that she was given a 3-year non-compete in exchange for severance pay. Let's talk about this right here, because I feel like whenever you're given a non-compete, let's talk honestly. In the United States, non-competes are so unenforceable, it's fucking hilarious. You could have a non-compete signed with your blood, with a video of you signing it, with you on the video saying audibly, "I agree to this non-compete," and the employer still cannot enforce it.
They can't enforce it, but what a contract actually means is, if you go to somebody else for the next 3 years, we're going to sue you.
Those lawsuits are very quickly dismissed. Again,
But it hurts people that don't have the money
Right.
to pay for lawyers and shit.
But that's something else established. Doug isn't exactly swimming in money. I mean, again, I feel like whenever someone brings up a non-compete, especially Holly bringing up this non-compete, it's an empty threat. It's an empty, idle threat. And I feel like I just wanted to get it out there to anyone listening. Non-competes are so unenforceable in the United States, it's hilarious. It's seen as one of the non-competes are seen as poisonous to the concept of capitalism, is actually what one judge said.
So if they're so unenforceable and kind of laughable, why do people do it?
Because not everyone knows that they're unenforceable.
Plus,
If you
in some cases, it's a matter of bring up wrestling again. Like back in the Monday Night Wars, you would get a non-compete when you go from WWF to WCW, but all that meant was, we'll keep paying you, but if you appear on their show, then the payments stop. So I'm guessing there's that kind of non-compete, but what Ben's talking about is like actually restricting someone from taking another job, and you can't really do that.
because the contract, Holly says that the non-compete she's talking about would keep her from running anything in the entertainment industry for 3 years.
Hmm.
That's unenforceable. She says she's getting severance pay. She's not getting 3 years of severance pay. She's probably getting 3 to 6 months of severance pay.
Right.
Honestly, what she should have done is after the severance pay stopped, immediately get another job, because they would not be able to enforce a non-compete. And Doug, they're already hemorrhaging money. They don't have the money to get a lawyer and sick them on a former employee. That's an idle threat. Um, and another thing about Holly. Holly is really a volatile person. Basically, Holly and Lupa like sort of teamed together on Twitter, and they sort of orchestrated the whole Noah meltdown.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
They also with Scarlett, the Noah's ex. Um, they I'm not excusing Noah Antweiler's behavior, mind you. I'm not. I think that he told a bad joke. I think that it was not a good joke. I think it was a poor taste, but I think at the same time, no one actually believed that he was actually going to chain Jessica Otaka to a radiator and rape her. And if you actually think that, then you should go to England and say that you really think Count Dankula really, really, really is a Nazi.
I don't know. With the whole shit with Justin Carmichael coming out.
Who knows who's going to turn next?
I think your argument has been invalidated there, Ben.
Well, apparently the freedom of speech only costs you £800 in England now.
Ooh.
Yes. Well, they got their pounds of flesh, but
the problem with that is they realized how stupid suing Count Dankula was, but they still committed. They had to do something, so that's why they charged him. They couldn't just let him go.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is freedom of speech is not a thing in England.
True.
Holly, let's talk about something else. Since you brought up Justin Carmichael, this is a good point to bring up. So later on in the document, there has been complaints about a mysterious, now we know Justin Carmichael, contributor that was sexually assaulting and grooming younger fans. The complaint alleges that the management knew for a year before they fired him. Channel Awful responded with screenshots of a chat basically where they revealed that they fired him after 3 weeks of the first complaint that they said that they saw. 3 weeks after that, which was which places the sexual assault at MagFest. And let's be very clear. There are at least 3 women that we know about that were victims of Justin. There is. Go ahead, Red.
From all the fucking horror stories I've heard about MagFest, regardless of which year of MagFest, I don't want to ever go to the fucking.
You're afraid you're gonna wake up raped?
I don't know. I'd probably get accused of rape. I doubt anybody's gonna rape a 6'4" Indian. So
I don't know. Sean Faust claimed that the Mike Ellis tried to make pretty eyes at him. But that's another story later on. But so this MagFest was the MagFest, because this is the MagFest where the Center Radio event happens, which took down Revutopia. This is the MagFest where Lord Cat was accused of sexual assault. Though his supposed victim actually came out in public and says, no, he didn't assault me. But basically, Lupa kept on calling Lord Cat the rapist in public until Lord Cat, Jason Palmera, publicly threatened to sue Channel Awesome unless they put a handle on her, and they did, and she stopped doing that. So just to give you all backgrounds of what happened at this one MagFest. So this is the MagFest where Justin has told by Count Jankula, a different count, mind you, that a woman was drunk, passed out, woke up to Justin sexually assaulting her. by telling of the story, Justin left a puppy, plushie like a Vulpix, a Pokemon plushie,
Right.
in her. Holly walked in, saw it, and was like, "Oh no, not again." So this is the thing where I say Holly is a piece of shit because no matter how she tries to spin this story, she's still a bad guy. So when revealed that from the MagFest complaint, it only took 3 weeks for the Channel Awful triad to come to the decision to fire Justin. 3 weeks. Not glacial, but not exactly super fast. But again, 3 weeks I think is more on the reasonable side than 1 year. If that's what happened, I have my own theory later, and I'll reveal it at the end. Holly claims that they knew for a whole year about another event that happened a year prior. This makes Holly look like a piece of shit because in that 1 year, in the intervening year, she claims that they knew, and she knew. She allowed Mars Girl to share a room with Justin at another convention.
So she willingly went into this with him?
Mars Girl did not know the history of Justin.
Okay,
Holly
at
did.
the time.
Holly did. Holly did. Didn't warn.
Wow.
Didn't say, hey, maybe you should get different. Yeah, like I said. And so, like I said, either way, Holly is a piece of shit. I don't know a nicer way of saying it. She's a piece of shit. So this is what I think happened. I think there was an initial complaint that went to Holly. Holly took it and didn't go with it further. There was a complaint to management. Technically, Channel Awful as a corporate entity is liable because Holly, as an officer of the company, as HR, knew, which meant that technically the company knew. But I don't think she took it any further as a first complaint because there's actually a chat she had with Count Jankula that was revealed, the screenshots were revealed where she was talking about how the allegations were pure shit in the first year that the allegations. So I think she got the first complaint, thought it was shit, disregarded it, and then after the second complaint and other complaints that happened, then she started believing. Then she brought it forward. Then in 3 weeks, the Walker brothers fired Justin. That's what I think happened.
Okay.
That's some soap opera level bullshit right there.
What, my version of events?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not calling bullshit on what you described. It's just the sequence of events there. It's like I've seen less convoluted plots than an episode of Another World.
What do you think, Neil? Again, this is conjecture. I fully state this is conjecture.
Well, yeah.
We have no proof
Right.
other than the chat logs that line up very nicely with these sequence of events as I'm construing them, but that's all the proof we have.
Yeah, I definitely think there was a point in there where I don't know how accurate your theory is, but I think there definitely was a point in there they were like, what? No, not Justin. Justin would never do that. I'm sure that there was that period of like just incredulity that they just didn't want to accept that.
Yes. So, like I said, I feel like basically Holly is a piece of shit because of this. Because again, she knew, and not only that, like I said, there are 3 victims, and I'll name them as they are named here. There's a Jane Doe. There's an anonymous one. And there's also the Reddit poster. The Reddit poster was the one that was Count Jankula's friend, the one that was assaulted at the MagFest. The Jane Doe, I believe, was the one that claimed she was groomed, and then the anonymous one was another rape victim. So there's 3 women there claiming, at least 3. I think if I had to be honest, I think there's at least 5. At least 5 women. And the sad thing is we're not talking about Harvey Weinstein here. We're not talking about anyone with real power. But the fan base is so rabid that these women were scared into silence because of that. And again, we're not talking about Harvey Weinstein. We're not talking about we're not talking about fucking Kevin Spacey here. We're not talking about anyone with any real pull or power or money. I mean, Justin at the end of his life was going to work part-time at a hobby store to pay the bills. And I think that in itself is the biggest crime of this whole thing. And, you know, again, the way Justin was revealed to be the sexual predator was when Channel Awful did their response. They posted the chat logs that showed the time and dates. They had to show the time and dates because they had to show that it happened within 3 weeks of them being notified. That also gave the date very close to Justin's firing or Justin quote leaving the site. You know, so basically they also barely covered up a J, so a part of a J could be seen. So basically, people were able to figure out in 5 minutes. Lots of people think that this was incompetence on Mike Michaud's part in censoring the documents. I think maybe I'm giving you too much credit. I'm not saying this is 5D chess here because it's not 5D chess. I think checkers is way over the heads of most of these people, anyways. But I think that Mike Ellis was attempting to change the conversation. And he succeeded because what happened immediately after the response? There were some videos about, oh yeah, this response is shitty, but what was the majority of the talk, Neil?
It eventually ended up just being like all about Justin.
Yes. So I think Mike Michaud got what he wanted.
Pretty much.
So the next list of complaints is from Louis Love Hoggling Carr, and let me just say that this is the biggest list of non-complaints I've ever fucking seen in my life. So basically, Inked Reality was a sub-brand of Channel Awesome, just like Blister Thumbs was the gaming sub-brand. And Inked Reality, basically, again, I'm not going to give fucking Angry Joe a lot of credit because I think his stuff is repetitive and dull, but Angry Joe worked his ass off to get Blister Thumbs some notoriety. Blister Thumbs was never a screw attack, but basically people at least said, "Oh, I heard of Blister Thumbs."
Right.
And that was because of Joe. Joe got them exposure. Joe pushed the brand. Inked Reality went nowhere. And I think basically what happened was Lewis assumed that they would do the work for him, get the Inked Reality sub-brand out, and basically make him more famous versus him doing the extra legwork. And that's really the extent of his complaints about Inked Reality was they didn't make me famous enough.
That's possible. I could definitely see like them kind of like throwing that out there as like an idea, like, oh, we have this idea, we can give you like an Inked Reality and something like that, and then kind of putting it on the back burner and him like kind of sitting there waiting, twiddling his thumbs, like, okay guys, when's this gonna happen? And I can see that, but again, that's like a little bit of speculation, and I'm a little kind of leery of going in that direction. The thing that caught my eye was that he was mad at them for not letting him use the studio in Chicago to film his movie. And I'm gonna give Lewis just a little bit of credit here. I'm gonna give him a scoop of ice cream before I like just deluge him with turds. And that is that his movie was financed so much better than any of the Channel Awesome movies. I mean, he managed to get a grassroots campaign and get the whole thing funded right up front, so he never had to pull any of the shenanigans that Mike Michaud had to pull. But it was like he was mad because they wouldn't let him use the studio. It's like, sorry, I realize that their reasons were kind of stupid, but they don't really have to give you the studio if they don't want to. That seemed to be like his whole complaint is like, they didn't, I had to like rent out a studio up here instead of going down to Chicago. It's like, okay. Whereas,
you're welcome.
All right. Like everyone else's complaints had had a more personal touch to it, like grievances against the creators themselves. That to me didn't strike me as a grievance against Lewis. I think he was just mad that they didn't bend over for him.
Doesn't he literally like say fucking Doug can go film in a corner somewhere while I
Yes.
Yeah, that was it. I was like, what? It's like he expected them to just,
bend over backwards.
Yeah, bend over backwards for him, and it's like they don't want to give you the studio. It's like they could have like all the reason in the world, or they could have no reason. They don't have to give it to you.
See, the one thing I have to put in for my 2 cents here is, up until all this bullshit happened, I completely forgot Mike was even a part of Channel Awesome. And now with reading this article and hearing these stories, he's become, like unto a boogeyman of sorts to these people.
And again, I think that's unfair. I think it's lazy. I think again that it's the narrative that they're crafting. And again, when I see Mike Machad do something that's correct, I will give him props. Like, again, I think that the way that they handled the Justin Carmichael, if the complaint was only 3 weeks old, they did the right thing.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, really, how often were you thinking of Mike in the years before all this? Like, I literally completely forgot he was even a part of this shit. I mean, what does that say about how little or much that he actually did behind the scenes? That people would completely forget he existed. It's like when you watch Disney movies back in the day and you forget that Michael Eisner was involved with this shit.
Well, not everyone forgot. Other complaints that Lewis had was basically he was complaining that the forums didn't have enough moderators. He kept on complaining, we need more moderators, we need more moderators. And then he became a moderator and he got pissed off that they would not hire a moderator because of his complaining.
Wait, he bitched and complained that there was no moderator, and then he got hired as a moderator.
He thought that they would independently bring someone else into the moderation for him.
Okay. Like, he didn't think he'd actually have to do the work?
Yes.
Well, that's kind of like getting a puppy and not expecting your parents to always clean up after. Like, that's your dog. Deal with it.
And again, I feel like these are complaints that are ridiculous. And let's talk about the rape scene in To Boldly Flee.
Oh boy.
So basically, both Lewis and Lindsay complained about the rape scene in this document, and you know what? Lip service is one thing. If they really had a problem with this, they would have refused to film it. Because Doug has no contract forcing them to film these scenes. They could have said, "Well, you know what, Doug? We're not going to film this scene." What the fuck he's going to do then?
He's going to say, "You're not in the movie. Don't take us out of the movie, Doug. We'll film the rape scene."
Exactly. They agreed to it. Again, this is a case where there is no good guy here.
And again, give Lewis a little bit of credit. I think he would have had the pull to say no. I think he could have pulled it off, but he just kind of like caved.
Yes, I agree.
On that note, I kind of want to like backtrack a little to the previous movie. Where what's her name? Iron Liz got hurt. It was like,
yes.
He had to be seeing a lot of this shit happening. It's like, okay, when Iron Liz gets hurt and she's made to sign a contract after the fact about not holding them accountable for her injury. It's like, why is he staying on? I mean, to kind of repeat what JT was saying, it's like, why did you stay, dude?
Yeah. Well, he watched his girlfriend get literally curb stomped.
Yeah.
And basically then given this document saying, "Oh, by the way, we're not liable if you broke your ankle while we curb stomped you."
And they never paid her.
No, they never paid her. I mean, there's someone actually wants to make a movie about this. Someone actually is wanting to do a Wiseau-esque James Franco-esque movie about the downfall of Channel Awful, and they actually have a script written, and I'm like, you can't film this because there's no one who's a hero. I mean, disaster artist, they at least like touched Tommy Wiseau's character up enough to where he almost becomes like an Ed Wood-esque hero. I mean, they had to do a lot of like whitewashing to do it, but they did it. There's not enough whitewash in the world to whitewash these people.
I mean, yeah, you could maybe do it, but you would end up with something like, what's that movie where everyone's a scumbag? It's the one where they kill. There's these guys who are at a bachelor party and they kill a hooker and
Very bad thing.
Yeah, I fucking hate that movie because there are no heroes. I mean, you hate
they
everybody.
They made a woman's version of that movie.
Why?
With Scarlett, what's her name?
Yeah,
Black Widow.
let's keep. Isn't it like the third remake of that or something? Let's keep remaking the worst movie ever made. Like eventually this will be good, right? No.
Yeah. It's the women's version is called Rough Night, basically because Ghostbusters went so well. They're like, let's make a women's version of all these movies. So, so again, like I said, it's. I feel like the complaints are hollow. I mean, Lewis's complaints more than anything else because Lewis's complaints are basically they didn't do enough for him.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't make him famous enough. They didn't push Dink Reality enough for him. They forced him to be a moderator on his own forum. And they forced him to spend more on a studio than he wanted to, even though he would have to have spent that much anyways because he would have had to fly and rent a hotel room anyways.
And lug all that set down to Chicago. It's like
it was one wall.
That's true. I keep
calling it a set is generous.
I keep forgetting that it was literally just one wall.
I mean, it's like there was more wall in Pink Floyd's album. So the dude in Suede is the next complainant here, and I don't understand his complaints because this is a guy who left the site like in the first year and then came back 3 years later because I think he was a Mormon or something, and he was like on his mission.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I remember that video when he came back that, he talked about what he did, and now he's back doing, the anime reviews again, and it was like this big thing in the comments and all that, and it's Suede's back, huzzah! It's like, who the fuck is this guy?
Exactly.
Is this the guy that turned out to be a killer?
No.
Or is that somebody else?
That's someone else. Suede is an Aussie, and like I said, he was a Mormon, and he was on his mission, and that's why he was gone from the site for a year or 2 years.
There's Mormons in Australia?
Yes.
But that's just an American thing.
There are black Mormons too, believe it or not.
What? But, come on, man. Fuck. Just throw me under the fucking bus like that? Come on.
I think it's funny because of what the Mormon religion says about black people.
Well, they say worse about my people. They say we're the fucking devil.
Yeah, you're the Israelites that rebelled against the true Israelites.
Yeah.
And you got marked red because of it.
Yeah.
So, but again, Suede, not a lot of meat here. More of the whole, they didn't like Patreon because they didn't understand what it was. It's like, again, it's as JT pointed out, as Neil and I pointed out, as Dick Masterson pointed out, leave. Jacob Chapman, Hope Chapman, Jesu Otaku is the next complainant. And this is where things get weird because basically Jacob is claiming blackmail, claiming they were going to fire me, but I had logs, and I told them if they fired me, I was going to publish these logs. Blah, ha, 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 ha. Is basically this.
If you have blackmail, you don't go telling people publicly you have blackmail. So I'm pretty sure he's full of shit.
I agree because Jacob's whole thing is basically 2 bullet points for the same thing, basically saying, I kept them from firing me by blackmailing them with chat logs. Blah ha 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 ha. I'm like, that makes you look like a piece of shit.
Right.
And again, I understand these people. They're trying to, even in a document where they control the narrative, they can't help but leak out that they are pieces of shit too, that they are villains in this story as well.
It's called autism, and they don't understand human reaction.
I was gonna say it's almost like Chris Chan, where he's trying to weave a narrative that makes him look good. He doesn't understand that all of his rationalizations are things that people pick up on, and they can see the bad logic in it.
Yep, we got Benzai next. Basically, he complains that they didn't like flying him out too often because he was French. He complains that when Mike Machad, Benzai had art for the site commissioned by his girlfriend. Mike Machad didn't understand art licensing and started selling prints of it. Benzai got offended, and they basically broke that up. Again, this is stuff that you have to remember. These are people who are not professionals. They don't know anything about licensing or anything like that. They think that they can show a whole movie and it's fair use, for crying out loud. I mean, and all of a sudden, basically, you give them a piece of artwork and they don't understand that they don't own the licensing rights for prints. And
I don't get that. Why do people always have to find that out the hard way?
Because a lot of people aren't artists. They think, oh, if I own this piece of art, it's mine forever. They don't understand that, Red. I get you because I'm an artist too, and you're an artist too. We get that.
I used to know guys who would trace like fucking famous artworks and go, "Oh, this is my fucking artwork now."
Mm-hmm.
But again, I feel like Benzai's complaint is of something that could have been easily cleared up with a conversation. And I feel like Benzai came in strong and hard, and basically made it to where a conversation was not possible. And Machad was basically like, okay, fine, geez, I'm not going to sell it anymore. Crybaby, that's what he did. I feel like basically these are people who are highly strung, highly egotistical, and all grouped up in a room together and don't know how to deal with each other.
The thing about being highly egotistical is you're usually looking out for number one.
Yes.
So that's why you don't get along with anybody else who also just looks out for number one.
Exactly.
It's just, like I said, why did they stay? It's the one absolutely maddening fact of this whole sick mess. It's like the fact that Michaud in no way defended Carmichael, but didn't drop that guy like a 3-day-old sandwich when he had.
But again, we don't know what happened. All we have is conjecture.
Right.
From what we see in the chat logs that are published, Michaud got rid of him in 3 weeks because of whatever. They even said they were consulting a lawyer to find out what their options were. If they got rid of him in 3 weeks, I think that's an acceptable timeline.
Well, I disagree with you there. I think the sooner the better.
I'm not saying it's a perfect timeline. I'm saying it's acceptable, especially if lawyers involved, because lawyers make everything move at a glacial pace. I also have to take credit away from Michaud because Guru Larry revealed that within 6 months of Justin Carmichael's firing, that Michaud was playing around with the idea of bringing Justin back to the site. So again, I got to take credit away and give it back where I need to. We have to be fair to the facts, JT.
I know, I'm just saying personally.
All right.
So who do we have after Benzai?
All right. Well, after Benzai is a bunch of people I've never heard of before, basically Dr. Gonzo and Chaos D1, who I've never heard of.
Yeah.
I think Chaos D1 is the one who reveals that he was only in one anniversary movie as a cameo, and Dr. Gonzo.
Probably saying I believe in Santa Christ or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, probably. Okay, Dr. Gonzo is the one where I feel like, again, this is where you can really tell that the contributors are painting the narrative. So January 2014 is when Justin killed himself, and and basically Dr. Gonzo, this contributor who did not know about Justin's crimes, went to management, to the Triad, and said, "I want to do a Justin. I want to do an online wake for Justin. I want to get everyone together. We'll do a stream and we'll talk about how much we love Justin and all this shit." And management basically said someone else who that people actually will watch is already putting together something, and basically, no one's going to watch your thing for Justin because no one knows who you are. That's kind of shitty. At the same time, I'm like, management knew Justin was a rapist, and basically, the only exposure that Justin's death had was the one video from Doug, and also the one video from Angry Joe that Joe then went and monetized.
I didn't monetize it. YouTube did it all by itself.
Sure, that's how YouTube works.
That's how he got that $7. Again, it's like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. The contributors, they wanted to keep Justin's name secret so they could complain about an unknown rapist, but at the same time complain, "Oh, they wouldn't let us have a wake for our friend."
Yeah, that is. Well, maybe he specifically didn't know that Justin was the rapist. I think only certain.
This document's curated.
Okay.
Is my point. Lupa and Mars Girl curated this document,
but Mars Girl didn't. I don't think Mars Girl knew.
She knew the second that this document was coming up because someone brought up.
Oh, that's right. I heard her say that. Okay, never mind.
Yes.
Yeah, that is weird.
So again, I feel like I feel like that's a case of them trying to have their cake and eat it too.
Right.
They're trying to use both weapons at the same time. And the second that it was revealed it was Justin, they left this point in there, but it sort of like is this weird lingering point of, you put this in here, but the curators knew about this.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they expected Channel Awesome to reveal that it was Justin. That doesn't exactly. No, that doesn't defend them at all. It just like kind of shows where their mind probably was.
Yes, exactly. So Renegade Cut, I don't even know who this guy is. He complains about blistered thumbs again. Sean Faust. Sean Faust is a rotund man. He is larger than charge. He is like Boogie at his largest.
Wow.
I ate a baby.
I want my baby back, baby back. Sean Faust claims that Mike Ellis, one of the original partners of the site, sexually came on to him in chat, calling him sexual cupcake. Shit.
See, I just finished reading that line. It's not a sexual advance. It's them being an asshole to him.
Right.
It's like, hey, Cupcake, do you like Seinfeld? It's sarcastic. But this guy probably has autism, and he doesn't realize that.
So, Mike Ellis, again, he owned stake in the company. He owned a percentage of Channel Awful. And when this was brought up as a sexual allegation, they got rid of him in like a month and a half. And the reason why it took that long is because he owned a percentage of the company. They had to buy him out. and when you have to buy someone out, it takes some time. Again, I'm not going to defend Channel Awful all the time. The Triad has done awful things. Mike Michaud is an asshole. But whenever they are in the right, I have to feel like you have to give them the credit, or else you are just as bad as these guys who say, "Oh no, they're evil. They're always evil."
Plus, like what I did with Lewis, sometimes you got to give them just a little teensy bit of credit, just to shit on them again.
Yes, yes, and I think Red's right. I think Red's right that this was not sexual, like.
No, I've read the transcript. It's sarcasm.
Yeah, guys are just shitty to each other like that.
Like where I'm from, that's generally if you call somebody cupcake, you're calling them a bitch.
Well, it turns out Mike Ellis was right then. So this Beth Elderkin is the next. Elderkin, is that a real last name, or is this one of these stupid SJW names?
Elderkin. She identifies as an old person?
I don't know anymore.
I'm an Elderkin.
She identifies as an elder god.
I don't know anymore. That's why I'm asking. So, again,
that sounds like it's an Irish name.
Again,
or it could be Spanish. It could be El Durkin.
Okay.
Zadurkin.
Hadouken. Again, this is more complaints about management. They wouldn't pay her enough. She went to work for Gawker for some reason instead. So, I don't know. That's like.
And then Hulk Hogan dropped her.
I mean, it's like if you got a job offer, Channel Awful, Gawker. I mean, it's like I'm voting Trump.
What?
That was a joke. So, like I said, most of these complaints after this are just peter and putter out, and basically a whole, repeating over again the stuff about, about, we got paid exposure. We got a link to the recording of Mike Dodd's dismissal, which is somewhat funny. What's his name? Amazing Atheist has published 2 videos several years apart now about his Channel Awful experience.
Was that before or after he stuck a banana
Oh,
up
I was looking for a way to sneak that in there.
Well, he couldn't sneak it in there.
Oh, jeez.
During. But his original video from when he first was let go as the distressed watcher.
So he was filming as the distressed watcher while sticking a banana up his ass?
I think the banana just sort of stayed there while he did the distressed watcher video. I'm not sure. The point is TJ, he gives a lot of insight, and again, I feel like his insight is he has the most clarity of the former Cypher contributors, because I think he's divorced enough from it that he's willing to look at things without the rose-colored glasses.
It's all that potassium.
Oh God!
I mean, of everyone else who has stories about the site that were former contributors, I think pretty much him and Iron Liz have the least, have the least amount of
agenda. Yes.
What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I think you're pretty much on. Despite all what anyone may think about TJ, his account was pretty even-handed. He gave credit where credit was due, and he slammed him where it seemed right, and he called Lewis a fuddy-duddy, and it was a pretty decent video.
Yes. Um, there was one person I forgot to talk about on this list, Lindsay Ellis.
Ah,
And the reason why I didn't talk about it originally was because of the fact that most of her complaints aren't about Channel Awful. Um, L- Lindsay had a friend who a couple years ago tried to expose, finger quotes, expose 8chan as a child pornography distribution site. So he went on 8chan and he found no child porn. So he decided, I'm going to put child porn on 8chan,
Was
which
this
he did.
Kurt Eichenwald?
No, but but this guy definitely Eichenwald himself. He posted child pornography on 8chan, and 8chan pretty much proved that it was him who posted it. It said, "Wait, this is yours. Where did you get this?"
from
And
Quebec
Lindsay
Revolt.
to this day defends this guy.
Yep.
Th-
Consistency.
this man's name is Dan Olson. I mean, this is from Lindsay Ellis, the woman who had the who you might remember from her last court appearance from drunken disorderly and attempting assault of a police officer.
I'm
I
I'm
mean,
just waiting for Medicare to make another video about all this shit. I mean, he's got to be licking his chops like, oh man.
she complains about the rape scene as well. She complains about the fact that the Borg name of her character after she got assimilated by Lewis was 60 of 9. And it's like these people have never heard double entendre names before. I mean, it's
If I had to guess, I would say, knowing her back then before she became a hardcore feminist, she probably came up with the fucking name.
probably. I mean, it's. I mean, I feel like these are people that would read James Bond books just to be outraged. How dare they name her Pussy Galore?
I know.
Ivana Humbalot?
Yes.
Well, he's
Who was
just
the
he's just basically raping these women. You know, it's a James Bond book. Jesus Christ. The guy's got like an infinite amount of charm.
Yes, he passed all the charm checks and rolls natural 12s.
20s.
Okay. Well, and yeah, like I said, she complains about the Dan Olson thing. She complains about fucking. She complains about fucking. She lost her phone in New York. Someone got her phone, and then she was able to get her phone number back, but because she lost her phone in New York, someone got her phone number and kept prank calling her, and she blames Channel Alpha for that too. It's like, what the fuck, chick, lady, whatever. Get over it. So after her is the women anonymous number one, uh, Jane Doe, and the Reddit chick are the three women that we know about that were sexually assaulted by Justin Carmichael. And I have to bring this up. If and I have a strong feeling that yes, Holly did know about the underage girls as well. Holly was HR, and I'm not sure what the laws are in the state of Illinois. I'm not sure. Neil, do you know?
I'm not really an expert on the laws here.
Um, in some states, HR personnel are considered what's called a mandated reporter. Which means that even if the victim wants to be silent, if the victim of sexual assault is underage, you have to report it to the police if you're a mandated reporter.
Right.
So again, Holly is a piece of shit. So, let's see here. We have Iron Liz's complaints. These are probably more valid than the rest about how she had to spend her own time, money, and energy to shuttle people around, get them chicken.
Right.
You get the Lewis's chicken tenders and um, how she worked hard and got stomped on, signed a legal document that she knew was not binding just so she could be on the site for 6 months and then realized, holy shit, this is all too autistic for me, and then left.
Mm-hmm. Somewhere out there, she told the story of like what happened when she visited the set of the Atop the Fourth Wall movie, and it was like very awkward.
Yes.
It was like returning to like this old, when you were like a kid and still had your toys, and you come back and you find that like all your friends are the same age as you, are still playing with toys, and you moved on, or something like that.
Yeah. Um, the rest of the document is more people I've never heard of. Uh, Mention of the fan document. The fan document was about 7 pages of documents from fans that had complaints about the sites and their interaction with Doug and people from the site.
Right.
They removed the fan document from the Not So Awesome document because they wanted this document to be, quote, pure. I read the fan document. There's nothing in it. It's basically a whole bunch of, wah, Rob wouldn't sign his autograph for me. The site's in trouble. Let's not play with each other here. The site is in trouble now.
Oh, it's dead.
It is dead. The site was in trouble for 4 years. There's been a long going death rattle going on. Before this all broke down, Doug was actually working with other contributors to do a 10-year anniversary movie. There was a script that was being worked on. People were starting filming, and then all of a sudden this dropped in and it stopped. There was, whatever the script was for a 10-year anniversary movie, I don't know what it is, but I imagine it's very autistic.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
I wonder if somebody was cut out of this movie and then dropped this document.
That could always be the case.
I think you have a good point there, Brad.
I mean, I'm just looking at the website now, and it's a whole lot of Doug, Brad, and Larry on the main page sort of thing, and then was it Battle Geek Plus's farewell video, and
let's talk about the fact that Brad's still on the site. People don't know why Brad is still on the site. Some people will suspect that Brad is the only contributor that actually signed a legal document.
Yeah. He's not talking about it on Twitter. I checked a few days ago.
Yeah, he's not talking about it at all. Doug, some people suspect that Doug has left the site because his Facebook status says he worked at Channel Awesome, worked past tense versus works. This is all conjecture. I think that Doug and Channel Awesome are so intertwined, especially with his dad just now buying stake into it, that there's no way he would back out now. I don't know who told me this or where I read this, but you guys know about the Red Letter Media incident from 4 years ago, right?
Is that where somebody got trolled into going to Wisconsin to meet them or something?
That's Paul Latza. That's a different Red Letter Media incident.
easy now, Ben, you're going to kill Neil.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Red Letter Media incident was Doug purposefully went to a convention that he knew Mike Skokowski was going to. And he cornered Mike and basically begged him, hey, we got to do something together. Please, let me do something together. You don't understand. This is my livelihood. This is my life. This is my money. If you don't do this, I probably won't be able to feed my family. Please, let's do something together. From different accounts, I've heard Doug was on his knees begging. Other accounts I've heard he was just talking calmly. But what I have heard consistently was he flew to a convention that Mike was at, cornered him, and begged him to like do something together. That's the Red Letter Media incident I'm talking about.
Let's see.
I mean, what do you think? What do you think happened, if anything?
That.
Do you
What
think
does
that
a
this?
cat sing?
Sorry, what?
Said, where's the cat thing?
Oh.
What do you think, Red? Do you think Doug was ever that desperate?
I don't think. I think he might have been that desperate. Because that was after, from what I heard, that was after the whole fucking hotshot incident and him trying to quit the Nostalgia Critic and all that. Now, I don't imagine he was on his knees. Doug doesn't seem like the guy who's going to be on his fucking knees. Probably asked him out to dinner and fucking had dinner with him and then asked him there or something. Or coffee.
Oh. Fair enough. Fair enough. But again, I feel like that's one of the stories that
Kitty.
Yeah, my cat
That-
is very happy to have me home.
I feel like that's one of the stories that really like paints a very, very clear picture of what happened. I mean, we have a situation where the site's dead, the brand is tarnished beyond belief. They still have over millions of subs because I don't know what it takes to like I don't know. Maybe Doug has to like fucking rape a puppy on screen to get them to actually unsubscribe now.
Sometimes people just forget they subscribed and they just leave it. People haven't checked their YouTube account in months or something like that.
Or they might be like me and subscribe and just fucking forget it and don't bother unsubscribing to things.
Or they could
Yeah,
be
that happened to him. Oh, so you go, Neil.
they could be troll subscribers. I mean, maybe not to the degree that that Chris Chan was, where like everyone who watched him was just out to make fun of the guy. But I'm sure there's some spite subscriptions in there. There's forgotten subscriptions. It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I know. Like a couple weeks ago, I went through my YouTube subscriptions, and I had a ridiculous. I was subscribed to a ridiculous amount of channels that I don't even remember subscribing to some of these. You know, and
That's why you have to hit the bell icon.
oh, fuck that noise.
Bell
But you know,
icon doesn't even work. YouTube admitted they're like, we don't think that everything should get noticed by everybody, so we don't bug people. Then why
Yeah.
the fuck did I hit the bell icon?
You have to hit the bell icon, sign a form in triplicate, get blood, fingerprints, DNA, and then finally you get the notifications that someone updated their damn channel.
Yeah, but if you aren't sure, then you have to slay the fatted calf over a copper bowl, and But yeah, I mean, but with all these subscriptions, I was actually still like I hadn't watched any of Lewis's videos in probably a year or so, and I was still subscribed to him, and just for shits and giggles, I went back to look at some of the stuff that he had posted, and he's got a couple that, for all his faults, and I've never met the guy, so I can't honestly say whether I dislike him or not. I kind of respect his opinion about some things, so maybe I might check out some of his thing. I was subscribed to him and Bennett, and that was it. I think I took out the Channel Awesome subscription ages ago because, really, I was only watching Bennett, and that's the only one I watch now. For everyone that was on the site that's now just exclusively on YouTube, because apparently Vimeo, shit the bed and shut down last year. They're all on YouTube now. So, until YouTube crashes and burns, which could happen within the next couple of years at least, you can come here and watch stuff. But, all in all, never, like we've already said, and you've brought it up a couple times, I said, it's like my biggest questions were, why did all these people stay if it was so god-awful? And it can't just be for the exposure. Like, were they afraid of, being ostracized in the internet reviewing community? Did Michaud would have some secret, internet troll team who would just like fuck with these people's lives if they talk shit about him after leaving the site.
I think it was just fear of being forgotten. Because if they leave Channel Awesome, then, there's no guarantee that they'll get exposure again, that they'll keep their audience. They're just be out there in the wilds of YouTube again.
I'm sorry, what are you saying, Neil? That they might actually have to work for their fame?
Yeah.
Or for their money?
Blasphemy!
They gotta work hard for the money?
So hard for the money. Look, if you didn't say it, Neil, I had to.
I wasn't going to say it because I don't laugh at those jokes.
I just feel like that there are no heroes. They're all villains.
Where have all the cowboys gone?
No, just these are all villains, and even in their own attempts to touch their own stories up, they still come off as villains. They were okay with the treatment they were getting. For 10 years, they were okay with getting exposure. For 10 years, they were okay with the movies. They said, yes, let's keep on shooting Suburban Nights. Let's not shoot the easy indoors movie instead. I mean, I feel like the complexity of the situation has been lost in the document. I feel like any credit Mike Michaud, Rob Walker, or Doug is owed in the situation has been lost because this document is meant to only vilify them. And I feel like, again, people are using this as an opportunity to push their own agenda, i.e. Lindsay Ellis mentioning Gamergate of all things again in the document.
It's like, what does that have to do with anything?
Mentioning Dan Olson, the guy who Eichenwald himself. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is all bullshit. And I have to bring in Todd in the Shadows. Todd in the Shadows, who made the infamous tweet saying don't use Jew Oreo to Jew Oreo would not be for Gamergate. And Todd in the Shadows said that knowing. Todd in the Shadows is one of the few that knew about Justin's
proclivities.
Past. Yeah, when he posted that. So Justin was, Todd in the Shadows was using his dead friend, who he knew was not, on the up and up, to justify hating on Gamergate. Again, I feel like these are not heroes; these are all villains. Every one of them.
Except for Larry.
And in the end, except for Larry, Guru Larry, Larry 1,000 years, Larry 1,000 years.
I love that Channel Awesome has just become Electric Larry Land.
Yes.
Yeah. No, let me ask you one thing here, Ben. Like in terms of like people who knew, like I said, I'm a fan of Bennett. I enjoy watching his videos, and for years since Justin,
I don't think Bennett knew. Who I think knew, I think Holly knew for sure. Holly knew for sure. We know that. She verified that. Holly has verified. I knew this. Holly and Lupa and Scarlett were like a triumvirate of feminism. And also Holly was also like big inside source for Lindsay Ellis and what's it called? Their click, the Chic. What was it called? Chic something?
I don't know.
They named their group after a condom. No, but just to get back to Bennett, when you think about it, like Bennett, like you said, Bennett didn't know. So, I mean, what's going through his mind right now? Because, like I was saying, for years, ever since Justin, took the express train to hell, for lack of a better phrase, in silent tribute, Bennett put,
the
hat on his shelf for years. And now it's like, I seen one of his most recent videos. It was he'd been part of writing this book about how anime has affected pop culture. I think it's with the main author was Stuckman from the site and YouTube. And in that video, when he shows the unboxing of like this hardcover, it's no longer there. In fact, the shelf that it used to be on, he has now packed it full of his DVDs.
Right.
So I actually kind of like, I really do feel for Bennett because, he was a friend of Justin's. I'd seen him and Justin like little clip videos of theirs over the years before everything went down. But it's like, how does somebody like Bennett deal with the fact that one of his best friends who, it was this monster, and it's not like for all my crapping over these people, like, why did you stay? How many of them, like, how many of these people didn't know? How many of these people are now on top of looking at the end of their livelihood for, to be totally serious. They're looking at the end of like their revenue stream. Now they have to get, if they don't go back to YouTube or some other platform, and
They have to get real jobs.
yeah, they gotta go out and be, grow up a bit and such like that. But how do the people that actually were friends with Justin that didn't know? How do these people even like contemplate continuing in this medium when it's been so thoroughly tainted now?
That's up for them to decide. I don't know what, I can't speak for them. I have never known, I've never been in a situation like the one that they're in. They have to make the decision themselves of what they have to do next. Personally, this is what I believe. If I knew someone like Justin and I found out he did what he did, I would say to him, look, I understand you've been through a hard time. I understand that you have demons, but I will not be a friend of yours if you act like you are fine doing what you're doing. If you want, the only way you would ever even begin to regain my trust is if you fess up to what you did, if you atone for what you did.
Right.
That is the price of my friendship. And that's what I would say to someone like that. If I knew a woman who was assaulted, I would ask her two questions. I would say, who did it and can we kill him?
I think that's kind of what Iron Liz was getting at. I think she would have been okay with remaining his friend, but the condition would have been like, look, you got to turn yourself in.
Yes.
We can talk about it, but this is not okay.
I agree 100%. I think that's what I would do. I would say the cost of my friendship is your atonement. You have to prove that you are an honorable person, even if you've done this dishonorable deed. You have to turn yourself in. Nobody, very few people would have the fortitude of character to do that. And like I said, if I knew someone who was raped, like I said, I'd be getting the gun and be like, okay, let's find this bastard.
Well, we shouldn't. I wouldn't do that. I think Jack Ruby taught us that that's not the thing to do. to be the gun slinging hero in a time of tragedy. Like,
I just have very, very little sympathy for rapists.
I understand that.
And especially if a woman I know was raped, I would have even less sympathy. I just feel like, again, it's like to JT's question, these people, I know people who base their entire YouTube personas and careers are in this crisis of they don't know what to do anymore. They've created a life and a livelihood based off of this man they looked up to, and then it turns out, I mean, do you know who Jimmy Savile is?
Jimmy Savile.
Yes.
Nope.
Enlighten us.
Okay, Jimmy Savile is a British entertainer. He was a TV and radio personality and a DJ, and he was rich, super rich. Okay? And he's dead now. He died in 2011, but he used to fund hospitals and do walkathons with kids. And it turns out he was a huge pedophile. He would pay all this money to hospitals so they have these wings for pediatrics, and he would just, because of the fact that he technically owned these wings, go into these wings and do unspeakable things. And because he was paying the money for these hospitals, the doctors, the nurses, they just looked the other way. And Jimmy Savile in British entertainment was a big ass name, and lots of people knew, and nobody did a damn thing.
Man.
Thanks for dragging the stream down. Man.
I mean, and again, it's like this is what amazes me is it doesn't take a lot of pull to make these women want to be silent. I mean, and honestly, I'm glad Mashad did what he did, and either intentionally or unintentionally fucked up and revealed it was Justin. Because what that did was it emboldened these women to say, "Yeah, that's right, this happened." And then, as soon as more of them said this happened, more of them came out and said, "Yes, this really happened. Yes, her account is real." And all of a sudden now, like in a culture where someone like, as one of these women said, that's like accusing a puppy. Is
Pokey and the man and the poke.
now everyone without a question believes this happened. I feel like someone has to believe first for this justice to happen. I feel like again these I think it's ridiculous. I think it's fucking ludicrous. I think it's fucking insane that a guy who Justin Carmichael, feel what you do about his quality of videos, but someone with a fan base as minuscule as his could have the pull to make women afraid of reporting him for a sexual assault. That's fucking ridiculous. That enrages me. I mean, again, this is not a Weinstein. This is not a Kevin Spacey. This is not anything of that size. This is some guy who couldn't even get enough money to pay his bills, had to get a job at a hobby shop. But he had enough pull to make these women afraid, utterly scared to death of saying anything. That's ridiculous.
In many ways, the way it came out is probably the best way it could have happened because it was confirmation from the source. It was confirmation from Channel Awesome itself. To give them just a little piece of evidence and let the community figure it out on their own was better than anything we could have hoped for.
I agree 100%. I mean, what do you think, Brad? What do you think about the ridiculousness of that situation?
I think there's no fucking winners. It's a horrible situation, man.
Yeah, that's. I'm quoting a line from the MTV Teen Wolf show. Don't judge me. I like that show. And there is this.
I'm judging you so hard right now.
I said it knowing you're all going to. Yeah, just silently judge if you wouldn't mind, please. There is a line from the show that I think kind of applies to this situation. Is there are three things that cannot be hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the truth. And it's a sad fact that eventually the truth will out. And the fact that it took this long, and there's this culture of covering shit up and just ignoring it. To people are either passively or intentionally profiting in some way, either innocently or not, off of this whole situation, this whole setup with Channel Awesome. And I mean, they created their own downfall.
They did.
The only good thing that I've even found coming out of this whole mess is a friend of mine on Facebook who's also a fan posted this link, and it's essentially a Google, God, brain fart. It's a Google Doc PDF where all the people that were on the site, both in the past and currently before this whole shitstorm started, is provided with links to who's still active, where you can find them, on what platform. They even have channel descriptions, who has a Patreon, who doesn't, such like that. I think this is kind of a cool thing because you can get this doc, you can check out who does what, you can find maybe somebody you haven't checked out before and give them a shot, and hopefully you can get some entertainment out of it. Or you can just sit back like so many people online are and, crack a cold one and watch the ship burn.
Well, Near to My God to Thee is playing, so
So yeah, what more can we really say about this sad, sad situation?
um, lol.
Sounds like high school football rules.
I personally feel I feel that there was. We always predicted there was going to be an implosion. It was always going to be from the inside out.
Well, yeah, because the whole site was basically a sinking ship from the start, and what they were doing is just taking out planks elsewhere to patch up holes, somewhere else, and it was just a losing battle the whole way around.
Well, there's a lot of people floating in the water, and a lot of the people, the survivors, are moving to the side and letting their friend climb on top. That's a very thinly veiled reference to Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
Jack should have lived, and Rose is a fucking bitch.
They both could have found the
Everybody who
door.
says that, you have to fucking rewatch the fucking movie, because Jack tries to get on the fucking door and it starts sinking.
Well, they could have used the life vest underneath the door to hold the door up. I mean, Mythbusters proved this.
Where are they going to get fucking life vests?
They had cork life vests.
But yeah, it's
Mythbusters.
There's no good end to this story.
So if Rose and Jack had watched Mythbusters, they'd both be alive.
Yes.
Yeah. The magic of the walrus would have saved them.
True. Again, I feel like, we always predicted this was going to be an implosion because I think part of us knew this was going to be an implosion because of the people involved, the egos involved, and like Neil said, out of all of them, the one person that Neil thought, that everyone, not just Neil, but everyone thought was the one good human being was Justin. Like even the most feverish anti-channel awesome person would be like, well, Justin's a good guy though. And it turns out he was like the most criminal of all of them.
And now I don't have to feel so bad about making Bud Dwyer jokes.
Yeah. Well, some people would say the last thing that would go through Drew Oriole's mind was assaulting children, but that's not true. The last thing that went through his mind was a piece of lead.
Oh. Okay, this is getting dark.
I apologize. I just couldn't help myself. Yeah. I feel like there are no heroes here. I think Holly is a piece of shit that's opportunistic and is trying to construct a narrative. I feel like all of them are like complaining, like JT said, after the fact, even though they were complicit and perfectly happy with the situation while it was happening.
I mean,
until it. Sorry,
how late in all this did Lewis finally jump ship?
I think he was with the site for 11 years and 4 months, and
he wrote
and
this big
left...
story about like the last 10 years of being on this. He's just he wrote this whole story on the front page of his website, and then just immediately jumped into the dock.
Yeah, I feel like. Again, these people are, Lewis included, Lewis especially, are opportunistic. They doing this because they feel like they want to get on the right side of history, so to speak. They want to get on the right side of the narrative. Once Channel Awful's crimes were about to be exposed, I think even Lewis knew that there was no chance of him keeping the level of fame that he wanted by staying with him. And the only reason he stayed with him as long as he did was for that level of fame. Because Lewis is motivated primarily for his need of fame.
Well, fame, he's going to live forever.
Oh,
see, I could make those jokes too.
Yes, you can.
Well, so just well played, Neil. Well played.
I just there's no good guys here. I don't know. I think it's almost completely out of my system now. Any final thoughts, guys?
Burn, baby.
I'm going to continue to watch. Yeah, burn. Let's burn it all down. And I'm just like I said, I just watched Bennett now, and that's enough for me. I mean, over the years, I occasionally looked at the comment sections on various videos, and oh dear God, I can't unsee those comments.
You know, I think in spite of all that's happened, it was going down anyway. Not just because of the financial situation of the website and everything, but I think times are just changing. I mean, I don't watch any of those guys, and I know a lot of people who just moved on to other stuff. I mean, Channel Awesome had its time and place, and I think people were just moving on and finding new things to entertain themselves. And even if they played it straight for as long as they could have, I think the site was just doomed at some point.
I agree. I mean, everyone else is diversified. James Rolfe diversified his portfolio early on in his career, so basically he now has a comfortable way he can make any sort of video he wants to now, and no one's saying like, "Hey, we want you to bring this back." Um, it's Red Letter Media diversified early in their career. They didn't do just Plinkett reviews. They did Half in the Bag, worst of the best of the worst,
Which is great.
Wheel of the Worst, Plinketto, Review, previously recorded. They do a lot of things. I mean, I think that's the lesson you got to learn here is the people who survive this sort of thing create different, diversified and create different experiences to the point where they're ready for the ever-shifting tide of the internet. I mean, who do you go to for movie reviews now? Do you go to Nostalgia Critic? No, you probably go to Red Letter Media.
Or
You know,
oh shit, what's that other one? Midnight's Edge or something like that.
Midnight's Edge, exactly. And I mean, it's like, who do you go for political commentary?
Throw a dart and you'll hit something on the internet.
Yeah,
That's true.
basically anyone.
Yeah.
Mundane Matt.
Oh my God! Did you see how uncomfortable Matt was when Jim was asking him questions about, hey, how was Kilroy? Were there like I heard there was like 50 whole people there.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And Matt's like nervously laughing, like, he shouldn't be saying this, and Mecker's like, what's the matter, Matt? It's again, I think right now it's internet blood sports is the big thing. So
Mundane Matt was acting like Jim was gonna fucking turn on him at any moment.
That was hilarious, though. I mean, so I think we're just about to finish running this victory lap. Channel Awful. Rest
Bit
in
of a
peace.
slice.
Yeah, rest in peace. Piss on the ashes, dance on the grave.
Stick a banana up your ass for the homies.
Well, you know what they say, the banana is the bane of the atheists.
Oh, don't bring Ray Comfort into this. God. Moron.
Is that why he did it?
I have no idea, but Ray Comfort had this whole thing about how the banana was like a nightmare for atheists because, like the soda can, it has a tab on the top that you pull to open it, and, it peels so effortlessly, and
It fits in the hand.
it fits in the hand perfectly, and by the way, he's wrong for reasons I'm not going to get into, but
Banana was cultivated to look the way it does now.
yeah. And he's like, and the wrapper is even biodegradable because he's a Kiwi. He's just such a fucking moron.
And people made fun of creationists for bananas for the longest time until TJ sort of turned the tide.
Yeah, thanks, TJ.
So whenever someone brings up bananas to creationists, well, funny you say that. There was this atheist fellow, and
The banana is perfectly shaped for the ass.
So, what did you do last night, John? Well, Mom, I had an entirely enlightening conversation about the failure of one of the most popular websites on the internet. Did they talk about the banana? Yes, they talked about the banana. I'm not.
Well,
I'm just saying.
well, it's better than putting the lime in the coconut.
Oh, jeez. And
But
next week we'll be talking about Maddox. No, never mind.
I think Mad Cucks is brilliant. By the way, oh my
Oh
God,
my God, yes. I mean,
wait,
you don't have to listen to us talk about this whole stupid Maddox lawsuit. Just just follow like lawsuit.com and just watch the funny that's going on in this stupid case. There's no way
Or watch
Maddox is going to
the-
win this.
or watch the next lawsuit, also to Billy Mitchell Electric Bigelow, where Billy Mitchell is going to sue Twin Galaxies for taking his records out of the books.
Why
How
is
do
it
you sue
always?
yourself?
What?
How do you sue yourself? He
Apparently,
owns part of Twin Galaxy.
apparently he doesn't anymore.
No, they wiped
Really?
everything. So even like his Pac-Man thing.
Yes.
Oh my God. See, that's a heavy price because he legitimately got that.
I
He was
know.
able to redo it in front of Pac-Man's creator.
You mean the guy from Pixels?
Yeah.
Oh God,
Why would you bring that up?
that fucking movie.
God
All right,
damn it, Ben.
Okay, we're going off the rails. We should wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. But yeah, all hail King Larry.
Our Lord and Savior.
Yes. Hello, you. This is Ben.
JT from Saskatoon.
Right, Inc.
Yeah, TV's Mr. Neil.
And we're saying goodbye, Channel Awful.
It's been a slice.
I'll take the rapist for 200. That's therapist.
Somebody want to pass the marshmallows?
I think it's out of my system for good now.
Oh good.
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 For good now.